Hey guys, Kurokage here with another review. This time I'll be reading the AC09 Kamen Rider Kurokage and Tulip Hopper set from Kamen Rider Gaim. This is the 9th set in the Arms Change series, and the second release to include a lock vehicle. So this set includes a few things: one figure, one arms, one weapon, and one lock vehicle. So to start, we'll take a look at Kamen Rider Kurokage's base figure. So here is the base figure, and this uses the Japanese body type, though this is stylized more after a ninja than a samurai. Starting with the head, you can see it's fairly plain, with a few notable details. We've got a classic ninja headband in silver along the forehead, with a red diamond in the center. We've got the visor, which is a semicircle, and so it's kind of a mono eye. And then you've got the mouthplate here, which has a few different slanted panels. And then the bottom, you have this part for the chin here, which looks like rope straps. And this is something that will come more into play when he's equipped with his arms. Looking at the body, you can see that it is the standard for the Japanese style body. However, you'll note that there are some parts that don't have any paint on purpose. Notably stuff like the outlines around the collar, the cuffs for the shoulders, the details on the shoulders themselves. Then he does have some parts painted out in silver: the elbow pads, wrist cuffs, hand guards, obviously the Sengoku drive, which is the generic one, with the silver painted lock seed and yellow belt straps. And as you can see, this is basically the one that was used for Gaim. Well, I guess more like the one that was used for Zangetsu, as it does have the one hole on the side here, but nothing to attach there. You got legs, knee pads, and the shin guards. Articulation is standard. Ball joint head. Arms rotate 360 degrees. Go in and out. Bicep swivel. Single joint elbows. Wrist swivel, 2 finger joints, legs go forward and back, in and out, bend the knee, thigh swivel, and ball joint ankles. So then you have the Matsubokkuri arms itself. So this is done in a kind of dull metallic brown plastic, and one thing I have to say about this set, and this is one of the details about it, is that I think that the Matsubokkuri arms here is actually rather improved over the version in the show, and also the SH Figuarts version. As here you have this color that is very similar to what you would see on a real life pinecone, whereas the one in the show and the SH Figuarts is this kind of very dark metallic gray color that I feel like doesn't look so good, because I feel like it matches, it kind of almost just blends into the suit. It seems almost too similar. So with this, I feel like it stands out more and looks a bit better. You can see there's some nice details here. Little stem on the top. Various little panels for the little kind of flakes of the pine cone, with these small bumps on them to give it some texture. See some details outlined in silver. And these are, of course, for the panels and the transformation. It basically creates the outlines for the shoulder pads. does have some gaps, and that's for the transformation. Then you have the base part, which is done up in silver plastic. You have his weapon, the Kagematsu, which is this long spear weapon. So the base is done in a very flexible black plastic, with bits of detail for a couple of grips at the bottom and the top. You have the actual spear part with a base with dark metallic brown paint. Looks like a pine cone, and then the actual spear part here in metallic silver paint. Now one thing you can see is that unfortunately mine is a little bit bent out of shape. And yeah, I feel like this is a little bit too flexible. As yeah, this kind of can get bent out of shape if you're not careful with it. Then we have the Tulip Hopper, which is LV04. So as the name suggests, this is based off a tulip. So you've got the silver lock part here. Then most of the other parts are done in this glittery metallic green plastic. And it's kind of a grassy green, or kind of a plant green, which does very much fit. In the center here you have the tulip bud. It's painted in metallic red. Then around you've got these mechanical parts, which are kind of like the vines or kind of stems for the tulip. A little bit of metallic red paint here and here on the top, as well as other bits of paint detail here on the inside. It's got this nice unique lock part here with bits of metallic silver paint. Back you can see the pattern down here, as well as the holes that are hollow so that it can be used with the Sengoku driver. And that is a very simple process, but as like with the Dandeliner, it doesn't do all too much. Like with the other one, this has no built-in electronics, but at the very least, when you cut it open, it actually stays open instead of springing back down. So in here you can see some other details. Let's a little bits of mechanic detail here on the inside, some red here, and more black here and here. And then these parts along here. And then you can close it back up and take it off. So next we can equip Kurokage with the Matsubokkuri arms. That's very simple. For you to take the arms, place it on the head and lock it into place. Then split up the top part and fold them down on the sides to become the shoulder pads. Fold down the back piece and fold down the front piece. And there you have Kamen Kurokage Matsubokkuri arms. So here's kind of where these straps on the bottom of the helmet come into play, as the basically the design for the Matsubokkuri arms is not quite a ninja, but rather something called an ashigaru, which was a type of foot soldier that the samurai would employ in ancient Japan. And so they would wear these types of armored hats that would be strapped under their chin, like so. You can see some nice details there, as well as a pine cone-like texture to it. It looks quite nice. Then these two parts become the shoulder pads. You've got this new chest plate, which has these textured parts that are painted in with black paint. It also looks quite nice. Then you have the back part here. And this is another way in which I feel like this is a little bit superior to the show counterpart and SH figure arts, as really that would be just kind of the bulk of the armor, as in the show like it's rather small compared to this, and the shoulder pads are also really small and don't look quite impressive, but with this bulk here it actually looks like this could actually protect him. And once again, I reiterate that I like the this dull metallic brown color instead of the metallic dark gray. This actually does stand out, and it looks more like a pine cone. And you've got the pattern on the side of his visor. You can see very well because the visor is just this very open shape. That looks quite nice. As usual, the shoulder pads are hinged so that the articulation isn't too hindered. Although in this case, because of these little stems on the top, this can cause them to kind of bump into the head and potentially tilt it a little bit. But they overall work well. Of course, you can equip him with his Kagematsu, which admittedly is the main reason why it's so flexible, is so you can actually have him hold it with both hands. Just like that. Next, we can transform the Tulip Hopper. This is actually the reason why this set came after Zangetsu Shin, when logically you'd think that it would come out alongside Greedon because they debuted at the same time. But the Tulip Hopper is actually kind of one of the signature vehicles of the Kurokage troopers, which were created after Zangetsu Shin debuted. So, like before, the first step is unlocking it. Then take these parts here and split them apart. Fold out these halves to the front. Fold in this peg here. Then fold the legs down like this. Fold the feet like so. Then once more, fold them down like this. There you have the Tulip Hopper. So, this is probably one of the strangest rider machines of all time, as this is not even a traditional vehicle. This is this kind of strange mech walker. As you can see, it's got this body here, with a couple of handles on each side. And then these strange legs that go down and back and then fold and bend back around. You can see here that these halves become feet, and then the metallic red paint parts on top become like knees. Now, this does have articulation because of the transformation, but it's not entirely what I'd call posable. Though you can get kind of walking poses like this out of it. So of course you can put the figure on there. So you just want to take the holes in the bottom of the feet and plug them onto the pegs here that have something like that happen. I'm getting one in there, then the other. Then take the arms and have his hands grip onto the two handles. and just standing up a bit straighter. You have Kurokage on the Tulip Hopper. And unfortunately, there's not really much you can do from here. Now, this does have a little bit of, well, not exactly play value, but there is kind of a purpose to this lock part being here, as this part here is kind of like a targeting scope. But yeah, unfortunately, like this, there's really not much else you can do besides, having it hop around and stuff like that. You can't really have it pose without removing his feet from the pegs. And you definitely can't pose the arms unless you want to, take a hand off. It's interesting, but really there's not too much you can do with it. And so then when you're done, you can of course take the figure off, just like so. So overall, this is an interesting set. Like with Green On, I feel like they included the Tulip Hopper here because it's likely that the Sakura Hurricane and Road Stacker just didn't sell well enough, and so they figured they'd include the last two locked vehicles with arm change figures, just so that if you want to get the figure, you'd be forced to get this locked vehicle as well. But in this case, I think for Kurokage here, it's worth it because, as I've said a couple of times now, I do feel like the design they use here for the arm change figure is better than the one they use in the show. It's because of the more distinct color and the slightly bulkier armor. And he still has all the articulation he needs to, and he can hold his staff with both hands, as well as ride the Tulip Hopper or any other locked vehicle. So if you're collecting the arm change figures, you want a figure of Kurokage or a Kurokage Trooper, then definitely pick this set up. At the very least, you do get some playability out of also having the locked vehicle, even if it's a bit awkward. Though, I would say, try to get this for a good price, just because obviously with the locked vehicle included, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than a typical arms change release. So, thanks for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more videos. And for now, this is KRX50, writing off.